This is so important. I really, really mean this. It's so, so important. Let's not overlook ball position. We're talking short game, when you need it at the back of the stance, middle of the stance, and when you get it off that front foot. So everybody, Alex Elliott here, PGA Professional. Welcome back to a brand new video. Let's get into our first scenario. That's sort of semi-pitch / chip shot. We're going to go to the flag in the middle here on the left. So, talking about ball position. At this point, I want you to have the ball position just towards the back of our stance, okay? This is going to help me hit down on the golf ball. This is going to help me take a little bit of loft off and make that really nice strike. Okay, so let's play two with this. And this is a ball position that I would use no matter what club. So that one went in quite low there. That was my 50. So let's hit 58. I would still keep this ball towards the back of my stance for this sort of chip / pitch shot. And we'll explain this in a little bit more detail in a second. Okay, ball the back of the stance, wait a little bit forwards. Nice little pop, bit of spin, and stop. Okay, so let's come to the front on perspective. I'll tell you exactly how I sort of set that up to begin with. So I'm looking for that semi-pitch / chip shot just inside my right heel is my go-to place. Now, this is really important, and I want to stress this. If you're watching this right now knowing, well, I know where to use the ball position, well, please keep this on, because we're going to say why this is important with the long game as well. But remember, we're going to talk about when and what scenarios we want to have at the back of our stance and at the front of our stance. Okay, so if we look at this right now, we know after watching a lot of these videos, we swing this golf club on an arc around our body. Okay, so the more we put the ball towards the back in our stance, the more we hit the ball earlier in our arc. So the more likely we're going to hit down on it. So if we've got issues with fatting and thinning, then potentially we've not got the ball far enough back in our stance. Look at this right now. Where does the yellow circle contact the ground, moving this arc back? Before, moving this arc forwards, hitting the ball back in the back of our stance, hitting down, more likely to hit down on it and get the ball before turf. I also want to stress this about long game and say, well, actually, the more we have the ball back in our stance, or the more the ball sort of hit early in our arc, the more likely we are to have a bit of an in-to-out path. If we think of most golfers here, we get a little bit stood up, shallow, and most of the golfers make this over-the-top move. So first and foremost, the first learning point is, if you're a golfer who struggles with that strike and you don't get enough of a hit down on our chip shots, get that ball off that right heel, and it gives you a much better chance of creating that strike and that downwards hit. Let's move on to another scenario here. That nearly went in, actually. Let's move on to another scenario here, the chip and run. So I've got my 7-iron here, and this is again when we would be looking to have that ball towards the back of our stance. So take this as a common scenario. Here to the back flag. What club, guys, would you usually use here? So I would be thinking 7-iron all day long. And this is where it's maybe we get the ball a little bit further back in our stance. So as we go through this whole video, I want you to be thinking about the rules. And also, if you want some help on these, I'll put this down below in the PDF that you can download. All that link is just down below. So if you come to the face-on perspective, I'd again be looking for this ball towards the back of my stance. I'd go weight forwards. Now look what this is doing to my golf club. A little bit of forward shaft lean. I'm taking loft off the club. I'm helping give this ball the best chance of going out low and rolling out like a putt. That's what I'm looking for in this scenario. Now further back with a little bit more distance, I'm putting the ball back in my stance to help guarantee a strike. So let's hit this one away. Now, ball, press, and look how much this one runs out towards that top flag. It's literally rolling out like a putt. Oh, didn't quite get it up that top tier. I see that shot as a very safe shot. Okay, let's talk about now where I put that ball in the middle of the stance, and then two scenarios where I put it up in my stance. So if I'm telling you right now that the major rule that I want you to think about is the fact that overall we want the ball sort of back back of our stance for most chip shots. Things to be wary of, don't get it too far back and too much forward shaft lean. We're just going to get this leading edge digging. It's a bit of a caveat to watch out for there. Also, another point, if it's back in our stance, don't go weight forward like this. Keep it all weight forward, okay? We don't want those tilts and turns to be all wrong. So let's talk about middle of the stance and up in the stance right now. I feel under pressure doing that, everybody. Okay, so we'll go just down here actually. So short-sided, we want the ball to get a little bit more up into the air. Fluffy lie, we want a little bit more height. This is where I'd start to sort of move the ball towards the middle of my stance. If I would say, like I said, back is my favourite area, middle of stance is where we'd sort of go with this shot right now. So, not a lot of green between me and the fringe, and the flag. I'd have the ball sort of middle of my stance. This is where I'd be sort of a bit of a semi-bunker shot, semi-flop shot feeling. So middle of the stance, this gives me a better chance of getting that ball going a little bit higher, still hitting down on it and still keeping my weight left in that address position. Okay, we'll play one more from here. So ball middle of the stance, gives it the best chance of hitting down on it, but also giving it a little bit more loft. You think you're hitting it later in the arc, we take the club from coming in like this, as it starts to be more like this, and then now when we go up in our stance, it's going to be more like this, so even more loft. Let's talk about scenario number 1 with more loft. Well, I mean, let's hopefully we don't have to pull this one out all the time, but scenario number 1 is the flop shot. I mean, it's not a shot I want to play all the time. It's a very high tariff shot and we probably hit it in the wrong spot with an iron. So let's try and stay clear of this, but let's talk about it. So for a flop shot, ball position, we've spoken about hitting it lower, being towards the back of our stance, bit of a medium option in the middle, but still weight left. Now we've got the ball towards the front of our stance. So our left heel, I do it a club head inside. So again, I take my stance. You'll notice now I'm a little bit wider than I was before. I still get my weight left, but look at the loft the club has now. I'm bringing this golf club hitting the ball later in the arc. I'm then going to not be as down on the ball, not as down, but with more loft. It's going to give me a higher launch. Down with less loft, lower loft. So there's times and places for both, and it's knowing when and how to use both of them, and that's what I want you to get by the end of this video. So ball up in our stance, bring the loft through. We should see this one go really high, land really soft. Ooh, sit. Just overhit it. Not my favourite shot and not an easy one to pull off, and if I'm perfectly honest with you, I wouldn't really pull it out many times. Okay guys, final scenario here, and if you are enjoying this video and this style of instruction, please hit that thumbs up button and hit the subscribe button. Like we know, with daily tips that are just fun and easy for you to sort of apply to your game straight away. Let's just give a bit of a recap as we're walking over here. Ball back is our favoured position. Make sure we don't get the hands too far ahead though, watch that. Ball more in the middle of our stance if we want that sort of higher one, and then if we want the really high tariff shot, but flop shot, that is when we want the ball up in our stance. This is the final scenario. We want the ball up in our stance, because when we're in a bunker, we want the ball to pop out and go high. When we're in the bunker, we don't actually want to make contact with the ball. We want to make contact with the sand. So ball up in our stance is going to really help this. And I actually think this is a great way to explain everything so far. So ball back in our stance, more likely to hit down. Ball up in our stance, still hitting down relative to the sand, but more up relative to the ball. Okay, so ball position when we're hitting a bunker shot, I want it a club head inside our left heel, weight goes low and left, and now again this gives us the best chance of being into the sand, okay, because contact the sand first, but then relative to the ball, coming up on it, or a little bit more shallow in our angle of attack, not as down, with more loft, gives the ball some height. So use these rules: ball back, hands forward, lower. Ball up, hands will say on the ball, more height. So ball position for a bunker shot, a club head inside our lead heel. Here we go. Give it some speed. and we can get that popping out and rolling onto the green. So guys, that's all we got time for today. I really hope you enjoyed this Saturday video. You can take all these rules straight out onto the golf course right away. I like doing these videos because they're real world videos, and I really hope you're enjoying them too. Don't forget to subscribe, and see you tomorrow for some more tips. Oh, finally, have a good game today.